In this video, we're going to simplify expressions by using exponent properties, and we'll specifically be focusing on powers raised to powers. So in this video, we'll be focusing on the type of situation that you see on the screen. What you should be seeing here is that we have a base of 2, and this base of 2 is raised to the power of 2. And then what's happening is instead of having another base, we have a set of parentheses, and this power of 2 is raised to another power of 3. So it's as if that 2 has a power, and then that power is raised to another power. And I like to call this powers to powers, because you see multiple powers right next to each other. So we're going to dissect what's really happening here and see if we can come up with a shortcut to help us rewrite this in a different way. So what you should know is that this 3 out here, this power of 3 is telling us that we have 2 to the power of 2 multiplied times itself 3 times. That's what this to the power of 3 or cubed actually means. And then if we break this down even further, what we see is this is really 2 times 2 times this one is 2 times 2 times this one is 2 times 2. So really what I have is I have 6 2's being multiplied together, which I can rewrite as 2 to the power of 6. And now if I re-look back up at this original problem, I have 2 raised to the power of 2, which is then raised to the power of 3. And if I look at this 2 and this 3, what I notice is that if I take 2 times 3, that allows me to get to this simplified version of 2 to the power of 6. So when we have powers raised to powers, we can actually simplify our expression by simply multiplying those powers together. So here we're going to summarize what we just discovered in words. And it says when you are taking powers to powers, simply multiply the exponents. And then we're going to practice this in a couple of examples down below. So here in this first example, we notice that we have a raised to the power of 4 raised to another power of 5. So we realize that we have a situation where we have powers to powers. And so all we need to do is take our two exponents and multiply them together. 4 times 5 gives me 20. So a to the power of 4 raised to the power of 5 can be simplified to a to the power of 20. If I then look at the next example, what you notice is we have 2 items inside of these parentheses, both raised powers to the power of 2 on the outside. Now it may look like this b value here doesn't have a power, but remember when they don't write a power in there, that power is really a power of 1. So what we have is b to the power of 1, then raised to the power of 2, a to the power of 9, then raised to the power of 2. So when you have 2 items in there being raised to that second power of 2, or 2 things with powers to powers, you simply multiply each exponent inside this parentheses by that 2. So you take b to the power of 1 and you take 1 times 2, which is 2, so we now have b to the power of 2. And then we take a to the power of 9 and we multiply that by the 2. We get 18, so we have a to the power of 18. So if you have multiple items inside of those parentheses being raised to a second power, you simply multiply everything in there by that second power on the outside. Then from here down in example C, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through right away, and anything that does not have an exponent, I'm going to add the power of 1 to it. Then I notice that I have powers to powers because this 5 out here on the outside is raising all of the powers on the inside to the power of 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply each power inside of here by 5. So here I have 2 raised to the power of 5. A, 1 times 5, so it's also raised to the power of 5. B, 2 times 5 is 10. And C, 7 times 5 is 35. Now my last piece here is because this is a numerical number, I can actually simplify that out. So 2 raised to the power of 5 in my calculator gives me 32. So I can write 32, a to the power of 5, b to the 10th, c to the power of 35. So notice here in this example, we have powers raised to powers raised to powers. So we essentially have the powers to powers rule appearing twice. And while this looks confusing, what's really cool about this particular property is we can apply it multiple times if we're in a situation where we see it multiple times. What we simply do is we start in the parentheses and we work from the inside out, just like we do with the order of operations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore that outer parenthesis with the 2 for a second and just focus on what I have here boxed in purple. So notice here, so I have a to the power of 7, b to the power of 4, all raised to the power of 3. So I'm going to take each power in there and I'm going to multiply it by 3. So we then have a to the power of 21, b to the power of 12. And then we can add back in that extra powers to power of 2. And we can then repeat this same process because we have powers to powers. We multiply them both by 2. So we get a to the power of 42 and b to the power of 24. So if you see this power multiple times, you can just apply that same property, apply that same pattern multiple times until you've worked through all sets of parentheses.